Let me record it.
Yeah, in progress now.
Yeah, now it's recording. Okay, let me see.
The eventual start is in the middle and end.
Okay, can you see my screen, Nuria?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
All right, so I'll get you to pop yourself on mute and then I'll start the presentation. Perfect. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome. So today I am implementing a workshop called the Early Years Learning Framework Explained workshop. The main reason for this is when I did my program and planning appointments a few months ago, there was a common theme from educators that they weren't really understanding the EYLF and the My Time, Our Place and the outcomes broken down. So I've created this to sort of explain it a little bit easier and to actually go through like the principles and the practices as well. And then at the end, we'll be going through some activities and some resources that you guys can implement in your service that targets each one of those outcomes. Okay, so you will all get a copy of this PowerPoint presentation as well. That way you can keep it with you and you can always you always can refer back to it. Okay, so we'll start off with the Early Years Learning Framework. Is a curriculum that was designed to support the development for children birth to 5 years, so before they commence primary school. Just gonna give me 1 second. So it includes a set of standards, practices, and principles that help guide early years educators within the education and development of children between 0 to 5 years. So it's a combination and a mixture of strategies and learning objectives for educators to use to help create like your own activities and your own programs. The EYLF also has a very strong focus on play-based learning and discusses the importance of communication, language, and social and emotional development in children. So as you can see here, I've just popped up an image and you can pretty much see it's belonging, becoming, and being. And then in that, you've got your learning outcomes, which we talk about all of the time, your practices, and your principles as well. So what is the Early Years Learning Framework? So the Early Years Learning Framework is an element of the NQF, so the National Quality Framework, and was developed in 2009. Look at me, 2019. It was made to help create a nurturing environment where children are educated and cared for. So most of you will already know this, but I'm just going to quickly go over it again. You've got 3 main themes of the Early Years Learning Framework: belonging, being, and becoming. So these 3 are the foundations for your children's learning. Okay. Now, with belonging, being, and becoming, I've just broken it down in the 3 categories just to explain a little bit more about each one. Okay, so belonging is knowing where the child belongs. It's learning the different groups that they belong to. So they may belong to their family group, local community groups like play groups, library groups, school groups, cultural groups, your family daycare group as well. And it helps children define their identity and their independence. Then you've got being. So that relates to children learning about the here and now of their life and pretty much just letting children be children and explore the world around them and the ups and downs of life. Becoming is looking at the development of the children and how the environment that they're in shapes their childhood. And it also encourages the children to participate in things around them and in their local communities. So within the EYLF, you've got, which I just showed you in that little table form, is the principles, practices, and your learning outcomes. Now, your principles, I'm sure you're all aware of these, but again, I'm just going to briefly go over them again. You've got 5 EYLF principles that help guide you as the educator. Okay, so these principles have been put in place to focus on helping the children with their progress, like over the course of the year, to pretty much develop and move towards achieving those learning outcomes. Okay, so the 5 principles are 1 is secure, respectful, and reciprocal relationships. 2, partnerships. 3, high expectations and equity. 4, respect for diversity. And 5, ongoing learning and reflective practice. So again, I'm not going to read word for word for this. I'm going to just briefly explain it in my terms. Principle 1, secure, respectful, and reciprocal relationships. It simply means how you're forming relationships with the children that is ongoing, going to support their well-being and their development. Okay, so it's pretty much when a child has formed a really strong and secure attachment with yourself, their family, their peers, they're going to overall have a really happy and strong well-being because of those attachments that they have formed. Okay. Principle 2, partnerships. So through positive relationships, children can explore things in their everyday lives to help further their learning. So again, this is all about creating and fostering those partnerships with the children and their families as well, as you're all the children's primary contacts. Then you have principle 3, high expectations and equity. So educators must recognize that all children deserve equity because they have the capacity for success. So circumstances and abilities should not hinder a child's ability to learn and grow. And yourself as the educator, you need to sort of look and address at any barriers that that child may be facing in your care. Then you've got 4, principle 4, respect for diversity. So this is pretty much you as the educator respecting that child's beliefs, their practices, and their traditions. So every child is going to come from a different cultural background. And that is just you as the educator really valuing that child's home life and their language and their identity and bringing that into your service and respecting that as well. Okay. And then the last one is 5 is ongoing learning and a reflective practice. So you as an educator should constantly be working on yourself, on how you can improve your professional knowledge and skills and continue to form those connections with the children in your care. Okay, so then we've just discussed the principles. Now we're going to quickly discuss the practices. So the following practices support the learning outcomes. So you've got practice 1 is holistic approaches. So this is just with the children connecting to their mind, body, and spirit, and you as the educator being aware of their physical, personal, social, emotional, and their spiritual well-being, which you guys would have known now because we have introduced the well-being chart. Okay, so I know that you all have just been working really hard on that as well. Practice 2 is responsiveness to children. So that is pretty much as simple as what it says, is just being responsive to the children, being responsive to their strengths, being responsive to their abilities, being responsive to their interests, and building on those. Practice 3 is pretty much, again, what it says, enabling the children to learn through play. So planning and implementing play-based learning activities with the children, and because as we know, play is the most important thing for children because they're able to be creative, they can engage in discoveries, use their imagination, improvise, use trial and error methods. Okay, so pretty much learning through play. Then you've got practice 4, intentional teaching. So this is deliberate and thoughtful teaching from you as the educator that is going to help develop those skills in the child, okay? And it's also about implementing challenging experiences for them that's going to help them to develop their critical thinking skills. Then you've got practice 5, learning environments. So this is pretty much creating a wide variety of learning environments, both indoor and outdoor, and offering those spaces for the children that are flexible, that are fun, that are welcoming, and that the families can also contribute to as well, okay? And then you've got the last 2, so practice 7 is continuity of learning and transitions. So recognizing the learning transitions between different settings. Transitions can be challenging, but these are also a really good opportunity for growth, and traditions, routines, and practices of new settings can be taught. So this is a really big one, and I've actually also created a PDF document and a video that I'm going to send to you guys after this about how to effectively transition the children from one activity to the next. So for example, if a child is having, if the child is engaging in spontaneous play, for example, on the mat, and you know in 5 minutes it's morning tea time, how are you going to successfully transition them from one activity to the next activity. You could have a transition song. You could have a transition dance. You could gather them on the mat and have a chat about what they've learned, and then they have to go pick their name and sit at the chair. So especially now going through assessment and rating, that is a really big thing that the assessors will look at, is how are you transitioning the children from one setting to the next setting, and how are the children learning through that transition process as well. Okay. And then the last one is practice 8, assessment for learning. So pretty much just assessing and evaluating the children's learning, which we do through the developmental checklists, and looking at where a child may need extra support from you as well. Okay. Okay, now we're going to briefly and quickly look at your outcomes. Okay, so the learning outcomes, I just want to break it down exactly what they are and what each outcome actually means, okay, because there was a little bit of confusion from some educators around the outcomes, okay. So the learning outcomes provide milestones for educators to identify achievements in a child's learning progress. So an educator should be responding and guiding each child differently to achieving these outcomes, because as we know, all children learn differently, and they're all at different skill and ability levels as well, and different interest levels as well, okay? So I had someone the other day ask me, well, what's the difference between the EYLF and the My Time, Our Place? So pretty much the difference between the EYLF and the My Time, Our Place outcome is that the My Time, Our Place outcomes is aimed directly at school age children between the ages of 6 to 12, whereas the EYLF is just preschool age up to 5 years. Okay, so the EYLF focuses on the preparation of the child to eventually transition into kindergarten and into school, and the My Time, Our Place framework aims to develop those skills throughout their school years. Okay, so the learning outcomes in both are very, very similar, but obviously in the My Time, Our Place, it's going to be a little bit more involved and complex. Okay, and we're going to look at the difference. So we're going to start off with learning outcomes in the early years learning framework. Just give me a second. I'm going to have some water. Okay, so we'll start off with the EYLF first. Okay, so learning outcome 1, children have a strong sense of identity. So I wanted to break this down and explain that pretty much outcome 1 is really all about the experiences, especially the positive ones, including change and transitions with children. So this outcome is about the children learning about themselves, how they can feel significant and respected, them growing in their confidence to explore and learn more, how they're shaping their identity, and how they have a right to be a child. Then you have outcome 2, children are connected and contribute to their world. So when a child interacts and participates in their little peer groups, okay, this should really be focusing on them developing a sense of belonging, again, in your service, in their community groups, in their peer groups, developing an understanding of their responsibilities as well, and learning ways of being that reflect their family and their community values, traditions, and practices of their own groups. Okay, so with that, you would also be bringing in a lot of that child's home culture and traditions into your service. Learning outcome 3, children have a strong sense of well-being. So you should be seeing and implementing here well-being that is referring to both their physical and psychological well-being, giving children the ability to cope with everyday stress and challenges. And then also this outcome also includes anything with the children's physical health, their happiness, and their social functioning. So that pretty much means how they are being social with their peers and how they're interacting with others in groups. Then you've got learning outcome 4, children are confident and involved learners. So this could look like in your service, the confident to experiment and explore different avenues, different activities, different learning styles, having a sense of security, having a solid well-being, being more capable in their learning, and becoming more involved in their learning. That could be them asking more questions. It might look like you challenging them in an experience. Maybe they've achieved something and you want to challenge that learning further. And then you have learning outcome 5. So children are effective communicators. So this can include gestures, sounds, language, and assisted communication, positive experiences with families, communities, and educators. That's going to develop the child's language, literacy, and numeracy skills, and using a variety of things like drama, dance, music, anything that's going to like really encourage the child to express themselves, their emotions, and connecting with their peers and like yourself as the educator. Okay, so that was the outcomes for your early years learning framework. So remember, birth to 5 years, and now you've got your learning outcomes in your My Time Our Play, so 6 to 12 years, so your school age children. Okay, so your My Time Our Place explanation. Again, you're using the same outcomes, except these outcomes are obviously going to be a little bit more like elaborate and complex because now you're looking at your school age children. Okay, so with outcome 1, in school age children, this will look like showing trust in relationships with their peers and their friends, being able to openly express any ideas or feelings they have, being able to freely choose activities, able to cooperate with others and cope with unexpected changes, so show self-confidence in themselves, and also show an interest in what they're doing, but also showing an interest and care for what other people are doing as well. Okay, so learning outcome 2, in school age children, this will look like showing that they are being inclusive in their play, showing curiosity, respecting the difference in others around them, including others in their play, understanding the concept of fairness and actually knowing, well, what's fair and what's unfair behavior. Showing respect for their natural and constructed environments and understanding that the harmful effects that humans can also have on the environment. So learning outcome 3, children have a strong sense of well-being. In school age children, this will look like showing satisfaction and happiness, being able to celebrate their achievements of their own and others, being able to self-regulate their emotions, make choices, accept challenges and take risks, use both gross and fine motor skill movements, and understanding healthy lifestyles and what is a healthy lifestyle and how to keep good nutrition as well. So outcome 4, children are confident and involved learners. In school age children, this will look like the child being able to extend their own interests and explore new ideas, apply thinking strategies to be able to solve a problem that you give them, adapt to new situations or new environments around them, trying out different strategies to problem solve, being able to make connections between experiences and exploring new ideas and new tools through experimentation and trial and error. And then the last one is learning outcome 5, children are effective communicators. So in school age children, this will look like being able to interact verbally and non-verbally with others in situations, being really being able to challenge themselves and others and negotiate ideas, enjoy stories in a whole range of different media, and using their language to create different roles and ideas and creative arts, so like drawing, drama, or dance. Okay, so now what I have done is I've created under each outcome a list of activity ideas and resources that you can use to help promote that outcome. Okay, so I got a lot of these off Pinterest and off Modern Teaching Aids, which if you don't have Pinterest, I highly recommend you downloading it because it is an amazing app that you can use to find different resources, different activities. You can actually create your own you actually can create your own FDC page on Pinterest and then just save everything to there. And also Modern Teaching Aids actually breaks down each learning outcome and different resources that you can purchase. That's also a great one if you haven't already had a look. So activity ideas and resources to promote for outcome 1. You could implement activities like name activities and getting the child to recognize the letters in their name, using a clothespin name activity, activities on the children's family members and getting them to discuss and write down activities about their families as well. You can implement puzzles on friendships, families, different cultures, read books about feelings, self-confidence and self-worth. You can do emotion stones and creating like different emotion faces with the children, creating emotion puppets, any dramatic play, and having a variety of dolls from different cultures in your service, okay? So activity ideas and resources to promote outcome 2. Okay, so with this one here, you could have, like, you could implement in your service puzzles that look at different carers and different professions, you know, so like firefighters, astronauts, doctors, pilots, chefs, all different careers and professions in the wider community. You can also do role play with your children that discuss different roles and relationships. The parachute game is another great one for outcome 2. Even having an activity where you're creating the different groups that the children belong to within the community. So, you know, you could draw a circle and have the name in the middle and then get them to draw pictures of all of the communities that they belong to as well. Reading books about mindfulness and empathy, writing kindness letters to their peers, having puzzles on inclusion. Even a great one is getting the children to write their own affirmation cards. I am brave, I am calm, I am resilient, I am strong, I am kind. They are great affirmation cards that you can get the children to write. And then you always can keep coming back to them as well. You can create a belonging tree, as you can see at the bottom of the PowerPoint, and you can add all of the different cultures of the children. And you can also add like the children's other family members, their cultures as well. That's a great one. So activity ideas and resources to promote for outcome 3. So you could label body parts and their functions. You can read books about health and wellness. You can look at teeth, brushing teeth, how to brush teeth, the importance of dental and oral hygiene. You can have puzzles on healthy eating, activities on sorting out healthy and unhealthy food in groups, doing yoga and yoga movement cards with the children, any indoor and outdoor obstacle courses, balancing beams, using hula hoops, hopscotch, rock climbing, anything that's really like looking at their fine and gross motor movements. Then activities and resources to promote outcome 4. So this was a big one. I probably could have done this over a few slides. You could have like mirrored musical instruments. You could have shape light tables, kinetic sand exploration, magnetic cube blocks, magnetic tiles, exploring shapes and colors, primary and secondary colors with the children, using pegboards, geoboards. I love geoboards. Geoboards are so versatile because, you know, you can get the children to create shapes on there. You can get them to create numbers, letters. It is an amazing tool for their fine motor skills. If you don't have geoboards, I would highly recommend going and grabbing some because you just can use it for so many different things. Color discoveries, stack and sorting sets, magnetic pattern blocks, snakes and ladders games, sequencing puzzles, counting and tracing, number writing, number and sorting activities, water and sand play, STEM activities, and any STEM, any like sink and floating activities are great as well. Okay, and then the last one we have is activity ideas and resources to promote outcome 5. So this can be, I'll just get all my images up. So this could be creating story stones, okay? So even reading the children a story and then recreating each page of the story is a great one. Making hand puppets, having like matching Aboriginal games, lots of story time using Aboriginal stories, implementing books on rhyming and teaching the children how to rhyme, storytelling and storyboards, alphabet matching, alphabet games, tracing letters, any like math counting activities, sequencing games is a great one, and getting the children to like recreate and follow the sequence, teaching time and the concept of time, introducing a weather chart in your service as well. If you don't already have that, it's a great one. You can look at the weather, the days of the week, and then you can, like when you're looking at talking about the seasons, you then can like go into that and look at, okay, like how rain clouds formed, and that can be an activity, and then looking at rain and then looking at snow, and then there's just so many avenues that can go into. Learning about life cycles is a really good one. Pegboards, any pattern games, mixing and matching games, and just like, color and shape sort is a great ones as well. So like I was saying, a lot of these ideas, came from my head, Pinterest, modern teaching aids. There's a lot of avenues out there that you can go to if you're stuck for ideas. And I always tell the educators, like, use each other as well. Like, I know some of the educators have formed really great relationships with other educators, and you share and bounce ideas off each other. That is also great. If you can collaborate more with one another, start up a WhatsApp group between maybe 1 or 2 educators and share ideas. You're helping one another in coming up with different ideas that are going to promote and target each one of those outcomes. Okay, so like I said, this PowerPoint presentation is going to be printed and given to you that you always can refer back to as well. I've also created a document, which I don't think I have it on me. It's in the other room, but it's pretty much just an A4 document with 2 activities on there, an explanation of the activity, and then it's accompanied with a photo, and I will be giving that to every educator, and it's pretty much for you just to circle what outcome you think, or outcomes, because it can be more than one outcome that you think that activity is addressing, just so we can see that you understand how to connect an activity to the outcome, because what we want and what I want as the educational leader is, I don't want you implementing an activity and just circling whatever outcome, because you don't actually know what outcome that activity is addressing. Okay, so when you're implementing an activity, really look at what is the activity that you're doing, what outcome is that addressing, what skills are the children learning in there, and always remember that, like, if you don't know what activity, if you don't know what outcomes and elements that activity is addressing, we're always here to help support you. So this was just created just to sort of give a little bit more like assistance. So yeah, now I'm going to leave it. I've put a question box here. When you're watching this PowerPoint presentation in this Zoom, if you do have any questions, write them down, and then we can go through them the next time we see you, or on Monday when we have timesheet week. But yeah, just want to thank you for coming. And like I said, this PowerPoint will be emailed to you along with that activity document. And then, yeah, thank you.